The Myford University Podcast, episode 43. Just-in-time learning, how to learn fast and apply faster. Welcome, colleagues. George Sloan from Myford University. This is the Myford University Podcast, where we believe the fastest way to transform your life, your career, and your business is simple. Learn fast and apply it faster. Today we're talking about something that could completely change the way you think about learning. Something that makes traditional education look like a factory stuck in 1955. It's called just-in-time learning. If you ever heard of just-in-time manufacturing, the system that Toyota made famous, you already understand the big idea. Produce what you need when you need it and nothing more. Now, we're applying the same idea to education. I've done this for a long time. I've done this, for as far back as I can remember. Our approach on this is not learning everything just in case you might need it someday, but learning exactly what you need, exactly when you need it to solve a real problem right now, to hit a goal or to unlock a particular result again right now. That's the future, and honestly, it's the only way to stay relevant in a world where information has a shorter shelf life than yogurt. So, what is just-in-time learning? Let's start with the basics. Just-in-time learning, or JTI learning, is learning on demand. It's triggered by a specific need, not by a syllabus. In many ways, this is a lot of what Myford University is founded upon. You want the knowledge and skills quickly for a particular situation, particular problem, and you want to make sure that you get a result and get a result quickly. So let's look at it a little deeper. You're not learning algebra because someone told you it might be useful someday. You're learning copywriting because your marketing campaign isn't converting. Think about that for a second. You're learning negotiation because you've got a big deal coming up next week. You're learning leadership because your team needs direction now. That's just-in-time learning in action. It's laser focused, it's efficient, and it's directly tied to outcomes. There's nothing better. Really, there is nothing better than doing this particular approach. Traditional education will load you with plenty of mental inventory that you might never use. How many of you sat and said, hey, what am I ever going to use this for? And it turns out you were right. You never used half of it. But with just-in-time learning, it keeps you lean, it keeps you sharp, and it keeps you ready to deploy knowledge the moment that it's needed. It's the supply chain of skill development. Think about that one. Okay, you might be saying to yourself, well, why does this work? So, why does it work so well? Because your brain loves relevance. When you learn something with an immediate purpose, you remember it. Take that a step further. When you learn something and then apply it, it sticks. It gets very sticky and it stays with you. That is a big part of what we are really focused on here is learn it fast and apply it faster. Because if you just learn it, it may sit there and you may remember it someday. But if you're applying it, it becomes part of your toolkit, and you see that immediately that you can get results by doing it. So that's a key part of why this thing works. When you learn something abstract, just in case, you tend to forget it. And that's why you can't remember half of what you learned in college, never mind high school, but you never forget how to fix something that you learned while panicking at 2 a.m. Listen, if you're under the gun and you got to learn something, it's going to stick with you. And God forbid the situation comes up again and you're in an emergency, it's going to come back to you. So there are 5 key reasons why just-in-time learning outperforms the old model. You ready? Number 1, focus. You're learning to solve one problem, and that is powerful. Number 2, efficiency. You skip the fluff. You just focus on what you need to know. Number 3, adaptability. You can pivot as fast as the world changes. Number 4, empowerment. You control your education. We're very big proponents of self-curated education here. Number 5, results. You can measure the outcome instantly. And if it doesn't quite work, you can adjust and keep trying until you get it right. Traditional education gives you a diploma. Just-in-time learning gives you proof, and it gives you proof in the moment. The moment that you need it, it's right there with you. All right, let's look at the other side for a second. You go to high school, you go to college, and what you're doing is accumulating a foundation of just-in-case learning. So the problem with just-in-case learning is something that we need to discuss, okay? So now let's talk about the enemy, which is that just-in-case learning, all right? That's the old model. Learn everything now, you might need it someday. Great. It's like filling a warehouse with products that might never sell. Think about that one. That's powerful for a sec. It's very expensive, it's slow, and it's very wasteful. We were all taught to be knowledge hoarders. And what we really are knowledge workers and knowledge problem solvers. So, being taught to be a knowledge hoarder, memorize, regurgitate, forget, move on. Half the stuff you needed for the exam, you forgot, 6 weeks later, maybe even 6 days later. The problem is, in a world that's changing at digital speed, someday never comes, but the time you might need that knowledge, it's already outdated in many cases. Okay, by the time you need it, it's in many cases outdated. So the smarter move isn't to learn everything, it's to learn continuously in small, high impact sprints and to learn the right things. Not 4-year degrees, but 4-hour accelerators. Listen, it's not going to make you an expert per se, but it's going to give you enough information to solve the problem at hand. So let's talk about a framework. I always like to give you guys frameworks because it makes it easier to digest and comprehend and to use. So let's talk about the Myford framework of just-in-time learning. So here's where we're going to get practical for you. And again, we'll call it the Myford just-in-time learning framework. I'm going to give you 5 simple steps to make this real for you. Okay, step 1, define the trigger. What problem are you solving right now? What result are you chasing? That is your starting point. That's what triggers this whole thing. Here's an example. I need to improve my project communication. Boom, that's your trigger. All right, so now that you've been triggered, what do you have to do? Step 2, you're going to source reliable information. You're going to find the best few sources, not every source. You're going to go to YouTube for visuals. You're going to go to books for depth. You're going to go to courses for structure. You may use AI like ChatGPT for guidance and synthesis. You're going to ask some experts. You're going to ask some peers, and you're going to stay focused. I do this all the time. If I come across something that's kind of new to me and I'm not a subject matter expert in it, an SME or SME, what I will do is I will do a little basic research. I use my current knowledge. I do a little Google search. I do a little YouTube. I may refer to a book. I might try taking a course. I'll go through ChatGPT. Then I will also go and speak to people who are actually subject matter experts to make sure that I'm getting as much viable, valuable information to make a decision and take action in the moment that it's happening. Okay, step 3. You want to apply it immediately. The moment you learn something, use it. Write that small. Okay. Get down to the nitty gritty. Write it. Get down to it. Put your notes together. Build a spreadsheet if you need to. Launch a campaign. So if you're not applying what you learn, you're not learning. You're just collecting trivia. Think about that. Number 4, you want to reflect and iterate. We say that all the time. Iteration, you're going to test it, make adjustments, test it again, make adjustments, test it again until you get a satisfactory result. You want to ask questions. What worked? What didn't? What's next? Learning becomes skill through feedback. Again, I can give you all the information that an MBA would have, but it means nothing if you don't apply it in a practical example. Doing a report, doing a plan, doing an analysis. When you use it immediately after learning it, it kind of reinforces and it sticks in your mind so that it'll be there when you need it again because you know it works. Step number 5, you're going to document and store. So you're going to capture what you learned. You're going to turn it into your own playbook, your own template, your own system. That's your personal knowledge inventory. Do this consistently, and you build a usable, reusable portfolio of solutions, your own mental toolkit. I say this all the time, folks. I use this constantly. I will sometimes take bits and pieces from different methodologies and put them together in a combination that works for me and the problems that I need to solve. I do a blended approach. I'll take pieces of Scrum. I'll take pieces of Agile, which is, Scrum is part of Agile, but there's distinct differences. I'll take some traditional approaches to project management. I will take a number of different ways and build my own success playbook to solve that type of problem again and again and again. And you can do the same thing in your set of circumstances. That's the beauty of this approach. Okay? So let's move on to some tools and tactics. All right? I'm going to talk about some tools. Here is your just-in-time learning kit. If you want to get quick answers, you go to Google, you go to YouTube, you go to ChatGPT. If you want to do a deeper dive, then you go to books, podcasts, and micro courses. If you want to go to proof of your solid ability, you go to certifications, building case studies, and building deliverables. If you want to go for feedback, you go to mentors, LinkedIn groups, and communities. If you want to do templates, you can look at Myford University frameworks. You could do Notion pages, checklists, whatever. I always like to talk about pre-flight checklists as ways to, pre-plan things and make things run more smoothly. The key is not to get lost in the tools. They are just levers. The real power is in how you apply them and what you use to learn with them. So there's a couple different approaches. Again, if you want to think in terms of escalating as you need to. And the thing that's not here is obviously sometimes it's time to turn to a SME or a subject matter expert. And when I go and I talk to those folks, I say, hey, look, you do this all the time. Enlighten me. Help me understand this. What are some of the challenges that we might want to be concerned about? What are some of the issues? What are some of the choices? And based on your experience, give me the knowledge and information and answer my questions to help me make a better decision with the problem at hand. So I don't necessarily need to know everything there is to know about a particular thing if I have the ability to go and get a quick upgrade and learn how to ask the right questions of those subject matter experts. Very powerful stuff. All right, here are some challenges. Like anything else, there are things that you got to be concerned about, and just-in-time learning isn't perfect. You can get a number of different problems, and one of them is information overload. There's just too much noise, and the solution to that is to pick 3 trusted voices and ignore the rest. Okay, you have to learn how to filter sometimes. There could also be a lack of depth. Quick learning can be shallow. The solution is a deeper dive when the skill really matters. So you might not need to fully have a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification if you're going to deal with a problem here and there. But if you're dealing with a problem of process improvement on a regular basis, then it might be time for you to go a little deeper from the shallow end of the pool into the deeper end of the pool, and you might go and get that certification. Again, you have to make determinations as to when to escalate. Okay, another challenge, no application. The solution here is every learning session must produce something tangible. You really, I can't state it enough. When you learn something, you should try to apply it in real life as soon as possible to reinforce what you've learned and to take you to the next level. So always apply. We want to learn fast, but we want to apply it faster. And then we want feedback so that we can, iterate and get even better the next time. Another challenge is poor retention. The solution here is to review, to teach, or to document it. Teaching is the ultimate reinforcement. I've said it before, and I'm not the only one that says it. If you can teach someone else something, then you will have enough of a knowledge of it and an understanding of it for yourself. So one of the things I will sometimes do is I will go and give myself a refresher. Sometimes I will go and teach it to someone else because that reinforces it and it makes me think about it more. Like anything else, you get better with practice. Like muscles, your learning gets stronger with repetition. I've said before, repetition is the mother of learning. There is no such thing as perfect. People say practice makes perfect. Nope, practice makes better. And the more you practice, the better you get. I don't believe in such a thing of perfection. There's only better. So these are some of the challenges, and I've given you a couple quick ways to deal with some of them. Now, excuse me, the big picture. This is why it matters. In the industrial age, the value came from what you produced, usually muscle. In the information age, it came from what you know. But in the AI age, value is going to come from how fast you can learn, adapt, and apply. Think about that one for a second. I've heard many people say that the future belongs to those that can adapt, change, improvise, and relearn things. You constantly have to be reevaluating, upgrading, and making yourself better. Degrees and credentials are used for competitive advantages, and now they're just the starting points. You really don't need a full-on degree. You don't even need a full-on credential unless you want to go to the deep end of the pool, obviously. The shelf life of most skills is 3 to 5 years. And I would say in some cases, some of those skills are, the shelf life is less. That means your degree has an expiration date. I've talked about the idea of a degree being a decaying asset, but your curiosity does not have an expiration date. And your ability to learn and improve and improvise and make new connections and have new skill sets, that's up to you, and that's something that can continually be improved and upgraded. Just-in-time learning keeps you alive, employable, and relevant in a world that doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. There's no escaping this, folks. You've got to be doing this kind of thing if you want to stay relevant and you want to make sure that you're on the edge, the cutting edge. All right. So in closing, I'll give you a quick takeaway here. Don't wait for permission to learn. Don't wait for permission to learn. You take it upon yourself. Self-curate. When the problem shows up, that's your starting gun. That's what triggers it. When the opportunity appears, that's your curriculum. Forget about being quote unquote ready. Start learning into readiness. Okay? And that's when just-in-time learning comes into play, and it's what it's all about. So Myford University, the core of everything we do is learning it fast and applying it faster. Every accelerator, every toolkit, every framework that we build or will be providing is designed to help you learn what matters, apply it immediately, and produce tangible deliverables. We don't do theory for theory's sake. We do results. Granted, we'll share with you what the foundations are, but you can get that from anywhere. The key to the whole thing is to make them work together and use them immediately, because then you'll see the results and you'll trust the process. In this world, the learners who win aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who can learn faster and apply it smarter. That's who is going to win in the long run. So whatever you're facing this week, find your trigger, source your knowledge, and apply it immediately, and document what you've learned. That's the Myford University method, and that's how you move from learning to earning. I want to thank everyone. Visit myforduniversity.com, where you can learn it fast and apply it faster. We'll see you the next time.